much for being back. And if you just joined us, this is still Enterprise Friday, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get to our conversation for today. Nnamdi Kanu, leader of the indigenous people of Biafra IPOB, told the Federal High Court in Abuja that he has no case to answer in the 7-count terrorism and treasonable felony charge against him. This came after the federal government closed its case following the testimony of its fifth and final witness, a DSS operative identified only as EEE, who testified behind a screen. The prosecution claimed the evidence provided was sufficient to prove the charges, but Kanu's legal team filed a no-case submission, arguing that the prosecution failed to establish a prima facie case. The court admitted various documents submitted by the DSS witness, including reports allegedly linking Kanu to the death of 186 police officers and destruction of 164 police stations during the 2020 NSAS protests. However, Kanu's lawyer contested the admissibility of these documents and reserved its argument for the final written address. Justice James Omotosho gave both parties 14 days to file their written addresses, adjourning the case to July the 18th for the adoption of the no-case submission. Kanu was first arrested in 2015 and granted bail in 2017, but fled the country after a military raid on his home. He was rearrested in Kenya in June of 2021 and brought back to Nigeria. Though the Court of Appeal ordered his release in 2022, the Supreme Court later overturned the ruling in December of 2023, allowing the federal government to proceed with the trial on the remaining 7-count charge. He remains in DSS custody as we speak today. Emeka Madunagu, thank you so very much for being here and staying true with us. Now let's get talking on this particular matter. Nnamdi Kanu's case is, I would love to believe, if not, I stand to be corrected, if we have any other case that had lasted this long. Nigerians are beginning to even get tired of talking about these things because we do not know where it is standing, when it would end. We do not know. Speak to us.
No, there are cases that have lasted long, 20 years.
Really?
In Nigeria, of course, there are cases that have lasted very long. You know, very, very long.
But not as sensitive as this kind of...
Well. Maybe if we look into history, we might find 1 or 2 cases like that. You know, excuse me. But that of Kanu was just basically because too much attention was paid to a lot of distractions. Now, one of those was actually the mode of his return to Nigeria, his rendition from Kenya, which in the opinion of analysts, legal analysts and all that, you know, invalidated his trial. You know, I mean, the idea that you can just pick somebody from another country and rendition him illegally defeats the very idea of the trial. So that was the issue that had been running around, you know, especially under the former trial judge, you know, who also refused to grant bail to Nnamdi Kanu, you know, despite all the submissions of the defense counsel. The defense counsel, you know, they were changed, you know, I mean, so again and again. So I think it's a good thing that the trial has proceeded, you know, at least with the speed as granted by the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, the ACJA. So, of course, we've gone to the point where Nnamdi Kanu's the defense team say they have no case, you know, they don't have any case. Because, I mean, that means they don't want to file any defense. So it's now left for the judge, you know, having given 14 days to either party, to both parties to file their written addresses. It's now left to see if the judge will accept the pleadings in the no case submission, and then set Nnamdi Kanu free, discharge him and acquit him, or say that okay, that the defense should his team should file their defense.
So no case submission. What is the meaning?
I have no case to answer.
Oh, okay.
That's what it means. That the defense has no case to answer. So when you look at all the pleadings and everything, the case of the prosecution, you look at the weight of the prosecution's case. Then, if it doesn't hold water, if it really doesn't hold water, of course you have to discharge and acquit the person.
Well, it is not in our place to preempt, what the court would say or what is in there. But from the report, they are stating that all the police stations that were, set ablaze during the NSAS protest was all trailed to Nnamdi Kanu is ludicrous, don't you think so? Because we all know why those stations, including that in Lagos, were equally burnt, because there was the rage, youthful rage against the government.
Even the witness that was identified by EEE or so, who testified yesterday, the DSS witness said yes, that the NSAS protest was against police brutality, but he said it was hijacked by subversive elements.
Where?
So that
Nigeria, or just predominantly?
No, that remains to be proven. That remains to be proven, because some of the things they're even attributing to Nnamdi Kanu, he has denied them. He has said he didn't make those pronouncements. That even if you look at the fact that yes, that broadcast equipment were brought into, transmitters were brought into Nigeria, but how did it tie with him that nobody saw those things in his possession? That is one. They're referring to a newspaper report that said that quoted somebody as saying that Nnamdi Kanu ordered him to bring 2,000 heads and all of that. And now, the defense said, you didn't interview the journalist that did that story. You didn't interview him to be sure that this thing is factual.
Where the facts are coming from?
To be sure that this report is factual. So why would you just rely on so anybody can say anything in the media? Anybody can say anything that can turn out to be false, that can turn out to be a pack of lies. Yes. So and some other things. So it's not left to the learned justice, to decide on what to do. So, of course, he has given them 14 days within which to file their written addresses, and let us see how it proceeds.
All right, so while we wait for what would, or the outcome of that, I'd love us to maybe draw some comparison here. Radio Kudirat and Radio Biafra. Can you help us distill both? Were they fighting for the same cause? If it is, how are they similar? If not, what is the difference?
What was the difference? They were both pirate radio stations that were used that were deployed against the government of Nigeria. Radio Kudirat was run by NADECO, National Democratic Coalition, from abroad. NADECO was called NADECO Abroad. And of course they used to broadcast every morning, telling Nigerians to resist the regime of General Sani Abacha. Radio Biafra was also used to stir up opposition against the government of Muhammadu Buhari. So, and then different people were tuning to the broadcast, and all kinds of things were coming out from the broadcast. People were writing stories, doing things online on Facebook and all of that. But, the whole thing remains for the court to now admit, Nnamdi Kanu's culpability in those broadcasts, because he has actually denied some of those things.
Really?
Yes.
Even when it was glaring and obvious, he said some of them, which of course everyone had the opportunity and still have the opportunity of listening to them. They are still on social media platforms till date with his face on it. These are not AI generated images of
How do you know?
They are not.
How do you know they're not? I'm not speaking without prejudice to the case, but I'm just looking at externals. How do you know? How do you know they're not? That's why I said it is now left for the court. Because the prosecution has put forward this case that it was Nnamdi Kanu. The defense has put forward this case that no, it had nothing to do with the destruction. So it is now left, okay, they're going to file their written addresses in which they will state certain things. Of course, the defense has said in the written address that they will try to debunk some of the things, that report filed by the witness. Because, he said he compiled some of those things. Through, without, the defense actually said that dates were not attached to photographs. There were certain details, missing details in what the prosecution witness said. So all of those things will be pushed into the written address, and then we'll see what the court has to say about it.
All right, Emeka, let's equally still continue in our comparison exercises here. When we take a look at Sunday Igboho, Showore, and Nnamdi Kanu, with the coming of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it was very swift for Showore to have been discharged and acquitted. Sunday Igboho, the same thing. Nnamdi Kanu is still being held. Is it because he is an Igbo man?
Well, I do not want to follow the line that because he's an Igbo man. I don't know. Even though, well, if you look at certain events.
Because if you take a
Nigeria,
look at, all of them, there's still revolution now. Showore is not even after.
If you look at certain events, even now, what about the headsmen?
Exactly.
You have repentant, what you call repentant Boko Haram. Why don't you also have repentant IPOB? That's the question. Why should there be sauce for the goose and not sauce for the gander? So it now reinforces the idea, like you said, that it's because he's an Igbo man. Otherwise, if it was somebody from elsewhere, how would you not put Boko Haram suspects on trial? You say they are repentant.
In fact, they de-radicalized them.
So why not de-radicalize Nnamdi Kanu? Yes. Why not invite IPOB members for de-radicalization? After all, the Niger Delta boys, the Niger Delta agitators,
they were de-radicalized.
You de-radicalize them, you send them abroad for training, in different areas. You gave them contracts, surveillance pipelines, surveillance contracts, running into billions, money they never saw in their lives before. You gave them contracts. Some of them have become traditional rulers. They are living big. Some even brandish offensive weapons, and nothing has been done to them. So why is there this idea that IPOB members cannot be radicalized? Why not try it? Why not? Because all you hear, security chiefs, we will wipe out IPOB, we will do this, we will do that. Why not draw them? After all, former Governor Rocha Asokorocha of Imo State actually offered an amnesty program. Governor Chukwuma Soludo of Anambra State offered an amnesty program. He said, surrender your weapons and we'll rehabilitate you. But it cannot carry weight. Those programs cannot carry weight like the federal government's program. If the federal government comes out to say, we are going to implement a de-radicalization program for IPOB members. Come out, this is what the government will do for you. You will be surprised that even people who can fire a catapult will come out. Yes, it happened with the Niger Delta. Yes, some people who were sitting in their family homes came out to say, myself, I follow. In 2002, let me just narrate one incident. I was among some journalists who flew to Port Harcourt, to one of the military formations there, where some agitators were to hand over their weapons. I tell you, the kind of weapons we saw, we said, no. Is it all these den guns and things that were used to cause all the mayhem in Niger Delta? No, that somebody is not being... And so one of them who is very vocal, came. The governor of Rivers State then, Odili, Dr. Peter Odili was there. I was there, we were out there. He came and was shouting. Inside the military formation, no, he was shouting. No, these are not my weapons. No, these are not the weapons I surrendered. You people must produce the weapons I surrendered. Live and direct. I'm not telling you something that I saw. I was there when he was shouting. So, I don't know how they eventually resolved the matter. So, what are we talking about? You now set up the agitators scheme. You even set up an amnesty office that has been allocated billions, that has a bureaucracy. It was in the course of placating the Niger Delta militants that you set up the NDDC in the year 2000. That the NDDC was Niger Delta Development Commission was set up. Today you have a South-South, you have NDDC, you have the South-South Development Commission, you have the Ministry of Niger Delta. Three. Not to talk of other. You have each state has its own oil producing areas development commission. Each of the states under NDDC, they have these things. And then the biggest of all was 13% derivation. So, I mean, you have automatic 13% derivation to the oil-bearing states. Apart from that, the Petroleum Industry Act has also given certain concessions, certain benefits to oil-bearing communities in Nigeria. Communities through which pipelines, through which the pipeline network passes. So all of this for the Niger Delta. Why not do same for the Southeast and see whether these unknown government and other things will not fizzle out? Come, let me tell you. These guys, criminality is criminality, crime is crime. That's the basic thing. Look, but there are times you may need to use some other methods to engage criminals so that you can now see there are those who can be reformed. You bring them out. You encourage them to take up a new lifestyle. Look at the current president of Syria. This is somebody on whose head the United States placed a bounty of $10 million. But look at how Donald Trump shook hands with him. The man dropped his military fatigue and wore a business suit. And Donald Trump, look at all the things Donald Trump said about him. Gentleman, is this, is that, and the other. What? This was somebody who was running an affiliate of Al-Qaeda. You saw the devastation Al-Qaeda wrought around the world. September 11, 2001. And then around the world, in different places. But at the end of the day, well, the current thinking is that let us engage these guys, let's not engage them militarily, let's engage them diplomatically. That's how the world system moves. Sadly, a lot of people have died. Thousands of people have died. Sadly. But you see, you have to come to a point where you decide whether you want to continue with this, the loss of soldiers, loss of equipment, and all of those things. The toll is taken on the economy.
Now, Emeka, we might talk all day on what the federal government can do and what they cannot do. Now, let's talk about sub-sovereign here, and of course, narrow it to leadership, the dexterity that goes with good leadership. A very textbook example is Alex Otti. Since he's come into Abia State in the last 2 years, he has totally transformed the state such that youth restiveness has nosedived drastically. As we talk about loss of non-gunmen and so on and so forth, you hardly hear that in Abia State because the governor is someone that is youth-friendly, is a man of the people. He was voted in by the people and he got the position in place. Now, why do you think all of this restiveness and issue and fracas would not be solved by the sub-sovereign governor himself? Must we wait for the federal government to say, let's declare an amnesty program, a blanket one, before we have peace in sub-sovereign states?
Yeah, I get what you're driving at, which actually should be like that, the subnationals.
Yes.
But you see, Nigeria is such a country that the president is the most powerful leader in the world.
That's because the sub-sovereign governors have made it look that way.
No, it's not just that. No, let's face the reality.
So are you telling me, Emeka, that if a governor of a state decides on his own to make his state a place where even the country itself would admire, is it not possible?
No. I know the governors can do that. But there is a limit to what the resources available to each state can achieve. Look at a state like Lagos. If you remove federal support, a lot of things, look at like Eko Atlantic City. If the federal government had not supported Lagos to say, okay, let us, after that flood of 1996 that swept VI and Ikoyi, for some days, everywhere was flooded. I saw it. I witnessed it. But the federal government has said, okay, no, we have to do something about this. And that was what gave back to Eko Atlantic City. Since then, have you seen flooding in Lagos? But how much of state resources can achieve such a monumental development? You have Lekki Deep Sea Port. The Nigerian Ports Authority is one of the shareholders. Again, made possible by the federal government, in collaboration with the federal government, the support of the federal government. Look at the railway system. Look at the railways. Support of the federal government. Look at so many things, security and all of that. So it is very important with the way the nation is structured. That's why we've been talking about restructuring. I tell you what, the people say governors now receive a triple or previous allocation. But let me tell you, those allocations will have more value than what they have today.
Very true, because if we look at exchange
check the 2025 budget. The allocation that the governor of any state got like in 2020 was far more valuable than what that state got this year. So, what can it really achieve? Let's face facts. What can it really achieve? When in Nigeria, we know that to construct 1 kilometer of road is 4 billion naira, which is times 4, the African average. How much does a state receive? Even if a state receives 1 trillion naira monthly, how many roads can it do? And you know that some of these states are in tortuous terrain. A state like Bayelsa, to construct roads, I've traveled around Bayelsa. I've seen some of the projects the government is doing. My, oh my, it's not easy. The government can do it on its own. You need federal support for all these things. Because the federal government in Nigeria is an omnibus agency that even goes down to determine which primary school will be in which place. Even talking of sinking boreholes, the federal government. The federal government, even talking of distributing rice to local government areas, is the way it is. Now, I'm not saying that the governors cannot do better than what they're doing right now. But we also know the influence of Abuja in the politics of the states, in getting some of the funny characters we have as governors in place. It is there. It is part of it. So when we talk about restructuring, it is such that there are resources. Okay, look at the solid mineral sector. Look at the resources generated from the states. Are they going to the states? Why do you have a lopsided revenue generation system where gold in Zamfara, the federal government does not talk of it as a resource for everybody to be shared by everybody, but the oil in Niger Delta is to be shared by everybody? Why isn't there a law saying that, look, all states, okay, fine, you have oil, mineral, you have solid minerals, you have the Solid Minerals Development Areas Commission. Why is it not having impact in all the states? Is sand not a solid mineral? Sand is a solid mineral. Go and check this. Go and check. It's a solid mineral. But why is it that the impact is felt more in the north than here? You had the NEDC, the Northeast Development Commission, set up by former President Muhammadu Buhari, why didn't he set up the same thing in the southeast? The southeast is seriously impacted by erosion, by flooding, then by other problems, socio-economic issues. So and that is why you see there has been that cry of marginalization. There has been that cry of low federal presence. Forget about the talk of people, who just sit in their corner of the country and they talk nonsense about what they don't know about. Have you been to all these places? Have you gone to see? Have you seen, the level of despoliation in some of these places? It's terrible. I have been, in April last year, I was in a vehicle going from Umuahia to Onitsha, and the extortion was too much. That's another problem in the southeast. The numerous military and police checkpoints, they have to be scrapped because those people are there for business, extorting the people in the southeast. You don't have those checkpoints here, like on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
Well, because there's no violence here.
Excuse me, let me tell you something. The violence is being sponsored by conflict entrepreneurs. Remove those conflict entrepreneurs and that thing will stop.
You mean conflict entrepreneurs in the southeast, isn't it?
You see, let me tell you, when you create a siege mentality, what you do is that you generate restiveness in the area. When for you to move just across 50 kilometers, you have more than 10 or 20 checkpoints. What do you think will be the mentality of the people? I'm not saying that they are providing security, but that's not the kind of security we are talking about. It is not by mounting all those checkpoints that you secure anything.
So how would it have been done better?
Move into the territories, move into those places. Rely on information, build capacity, build friendship with the people, so that they can give you information.
Yes, it's actually a different cake there in the southeast of Nigeria. You would agree with me, Emeka, that the sympathy for Biafra and IPOB and the ESN, within the community is larger than collaboration. People would rather love to have in their homes members of the ESN than selling them out to the security operatives because they feel that the ESN operatives are safeguarding their community.
What led to bringing the ESN? Part of this problem is the herdsmen problem. The herdsmen problem, what you are seeing in Benue, what you are seeing in Plateau, this is part of it. So, but the thing is this. Remember the Niger Delta, during Niger Delta agitation, we were in this country, we saw the things Niger Delta boys were doing. They brought down the economy. The economy almost collapsed. They brought the economy to its knees. Nigeria's oil production, OPEC sanctioned production quota, 2.2 million barrels per day. Nigeria came down to 900,000 barrels per day. It could have even got worse. That's why President Umar Yar'Adua had to send former Inspector General of Police, Michael Kiro, to say, you are from this area, please, try and go and see if there is, you can hear from these people. What is really amiss? What can we do? Yes, what can we do? And then he went there.
But
why not look for credible people from the southeast? To say, okay, not these politicians who are just out to make money from yes, don't mind my people. Nonsense. What are they talking about? No. All those ones are profiteers. We're talking about genuine leaders who will go and say, okay, these are the problems. These are the things we can do to ameliorate some of these problems. And honestly, for instance, I will say, okay, the second Niger Bridge was built by the former administration, which is the bottleneck, around that area, from moving from Asaba into Onitsha, which is good. But there are other things that the people have been talking about. Why not take action on these things? The people have been talking about these things. The people have been saying, there are our people who are in detention, military detention, who are in facilities. Release them. Because they have nothing to do with IPOB. Release them. Thankfully, some are being released. Release them. Don't keep people in detention interminably. If you want peace, you should work towards it. You did it with the Niger Delta people. They point to it. You did it with the Niger Delta guys. You see President Tinubu has been talking of the Ogoni cleanup. You know how Ogoni was? Ogoni was many years ago. The killings there and everything. Under the Abacha regime, do you know how the military killed Ogoni people? But today, beginning from the last administration of Buhari, then now to Tinubu, you can see a sea change. That okay, no. Let us try. Okay, now look at what has been done. Federal government now erasing the stigma over Kensariwa, the Ogoni 9. You know that no. We cannot say that they were, that they did anything under the law, that their execution was justified. Let us close that odious chapter. It is part of reconciliation, it's part of capacity building, in reconciling the people, in making appointments. You removed ranking ministers from the Southeast and gave us a junior minister. Excuse me. That is, the optics are not good. What you are telling the Southeast is that they don't matter. And these things drill down to the people. They say you don't care about them. You don't bother about them.
But do you think the Southeast has enough bargaining chip as it stands today?
They are human beings. It doesn't matter. Every part of Nigeria is important. Don't turn human beings to bargaining chips. If one part of the country deserves good roads, deserves railway, deserves seaports, deserves functional infrastructure, deserves appointments, not just ministerial position, board appointments, ambassadorial appointments, and all of that, deserves security presence, which is not invasive. Come on, why not do it to others? What is source for the good should be source for the gander. Build peace with these people. Let it be one of the legacies of President Bola Tinubu. We have talked about a political solution to Nnamdi Kanu's case. Now look, instead of wasting time winding, sit down with this guy. The agitation for Biafra, where did it come from? What is fueling it? You cannot just say, oh, they just want to leave Nigeria. No! That is a lazy way to look at it. What fueled it? What had been done by past leaders to worsen the situation? What can be done? What can we do? How can we how can we weigh in and deal with these issues? So that, you see, it's not just about every governor defecting to APC. That is defeatist. You are trying to use defeatism techniques on the people. That, okay, if you don't join APC, we cannot. No.
You can connect to the center.
Nonsense. That to me is nonsense. You are trying to take advantage of the situation. And let me tell you, those things will backfire. These are people who, the other time I saw what some people were posting, that VAT generated in different states. And I was just laughing. Some people were trying to play politics with it. I said it only shows low mentality of those arguing. Because, look, it is in the interest of the federal government to upscale its revenues, to increase its revenues. So if revenues are coming from this area more than this, why? How come Ogun State has more industries than the entire Southeast? No gas infrastructure in the Southeast. No gas infrastructure, except maybe in Abia State. Then you now talk of Imo State, the ANOH gas facility, which has just started. Why not connect the Southeast to the AKK, Ajakuta Kaduna Katsina pipeline that you want to run to Europe? Let charity begin at home before you are connecting pipeline to Morocco and to Europe. First of all, connect the Southeast. You can take up from the ANOH, I think it's in Ohaji, if I'm right, in Imo State. Take it from there. You can tap from there, tap Imo. You can also tap to Anambra. You know, you can tap to a point. Let there be power supply, because that's another challenge. And this is beyond what governors can do.
Very true.
Easily. So even though you say you liberalize the electricity sector, but the onus still lies on the federal government. All the GENCOs and the DISCOs, the federal government owns 40% in each GENCO and each DISCO. That is still power. So even though you liberalize it, why didn't you say, okay, we will take 20% of this shareholding in the GENCOs and DISCOs and give to the states? So you give them power. But at the end of the day, is it for internally generated revenue that states will build power stations? Is it for internally generated revenue that they will build some of these things, seaports and all of those things? No. That's why you need federal help, federal support to make sure that these states can actualize, and don't politicize it. Whether they're APC or not is out of the question. Like I said before, what is source for the good, source for the Uganda, or for the Uganda? You should make a deliberate effort to bring down youth restiveness in the Southeast to the barest minimum. There are many communities today that are deserted. Yeah. I passed through some time ago. Deserted. Not even a single fly. Not even a single lizard. Because people have run away because of restiveness. Yeah. But you can draw these people and say, okay, look. Negotiate with them. For those who are ready to drop their criminal ways, then for those who are not ready, prosecute them. But the point is this: do not look at every problem as a nail and then approach it with a hammer or a sledgehammer. In that way, all of us, it will help all of us. More investors will go into the Southeast. It will generate revenue, and the nation will be better for it. We can reduce our debts. Because if you're talking about, okay, that Nigeria, the debt burden is high. The question to ask yourself is that, don't you realize that there are some areas that should be economic zones that are not, being utilized? And why not make effort to see how you can end any conflict in those areas? And, so when you remove these checkpoints, it's like the Commissioner of Police in Imo State has already taken steps to stop the extortion on Ishawere Road within Imo State. He has taken steps. Any policeman who does it again will face the music. Let the military do likewise. Stop all this idea of you will tell a vehicle that he has to park, then people will alight, and stop that. You are dehumanizing the people. You are dehumanizing them. You don't do that.
All right, very true. All of these things are very clear indications that it's very important that we all should come together and be one. Igwe, Buike. Coincidentally, that's my son's name, but literally in Igbo, it means that togetherness or population is strength. We are a country of over 200 million people, and for so many countries, that is what they would need, but unfortunately they don't have that. We have that. The question is, how are we able to utilize that to our advantage? What is good for a region is equally good for another. If there is more than enough gas facility for some regions in Nigeria, it should equally go across other regions such that Nigeria can be better off. It's so very unfortunate that up until today, the south of Nigeria still cries for a port. Calabar is a very good opportunity, but that has not been made possible for whatever reasons we do not know. But of course, if really we are destined to be great people, then we must, of course, eschew some of these unnecessary things and get everyone hands on deck. Thank you so very much, Emeka.
Thank you very much.
We truly do appreciate your time. And that's just about the time we have for today. We'd love to say thank you to you for making this a day. Please do well to visit us. If you may, you can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwe. Thank you so very much, and we see you. Bye-bye.